Hi my loves, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you guys are new. We have a very fun new mic today. First video with this mic, so we'll see how it is. But I thought it'd be fun to do wrap-ups like this because I can really chat. It's like podcast style. And we all know that we need podcast style for wrap-ups because we're going to be talking about all the books I read in the month of February today. In terms of quantity, February was a good month. In terms of quality, we had a little bit of everything. So we ended up reading 10 books in the month of February. So same as Jan, which is pretty good. It's pretty good for me. I was very happy with that. We had a big range of books genre-wise this month. We had 6 fantasy. So again, very heavy on the fantasy, but what's new? One of those is a very loose fantasy. I don't know how we'd describe that, but I'll get into that later. 2 contemporary fictions, we're gonna call them. 1 thriller, I guess we'll call it. This is what I mean. They were all very genre niche, and 1 romance that was just a fun little romance because I needed that by the end of this month. A bit of a confusing month. We'll get into all my thoughts and everything like that. I'm looking down at my reading journal, by the way. I just keep all of my books that I read, how I did on my TBR. Speaking of TBR, we did okay. Not the best on my TBR. We had 6 books and I read 4 out of those 6, so I'm getting a little bit better, I guess, at sticking to it. One of those books was Heated Rivalry, and I didn't get to that because I've had it on hold at the library and it won't come off because everyone wants to read it. We'll use that as an excuse for now, shall we? But yeah, without any further ado, I think we're going to get into this because we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to go in chronological order, if you will. The first book I read was The Night We Lost Him by Laura Dave. Now, this is pitched as a thriller, but this is what I mean when I say genre bending. This was a little bit odd. I don't know that I would say to you this is a thriller. I would say this is more of a contemporary fiction with a side of mystery. There was nothing about the mystery that we followed in this book that kept me addicted to it like a thriller would. Laura Dave also wrote The Last Thing He Told Me, which obviously was adapted to a movie by Reese Witherspoon. I actually really liked that movie. I thought it was good. I actually enjoyed the book as well. It wasn't my favorite. I just don't think Laura Dave's writing is for me. And this book kind of just solidified those feelings because the plot wasn't actually the worst. It was just a little bit slow for me. So the premise is we have a very rich businessman who has fallen to his death off a cliff where his house was. He lived on the edge of this very incredible cliff. He had a mansion, everything like that. It was ruled as an accident, and the main protagonist is the daughter of this victim. She believes it was an accident as well. She was never that close with him. However, her stepbrother comes to her one day and he's like, I don't think this was an accident. I think there's something more sinister. There's secrets involved in this. We need to figure out what's happened. So initially I was like, okay, great. This is going to be like an investigation type story. It's going to be really fun and interesting. But honestly, this felt like we were more focused on the characters' personal journeys than we were on the mystery, which isn't always bad, but I just feel like I wasn't connected to our characters. There was no reason for me to be rooting for them, to be honest, and there was just nothing gripping me to the plot. So I gave this one a 3 stars. I'm not saying it was a bad book. Like, it wasn't a bad book by any means. The writing was very simple but very readable. The setting was really cool. I did really like the actual flow of the plot. I just wanted more to it. I wanted more of a plot. I wanted more action. I wanted more high stakes, and I wanted to care about our characters enough to care about this personal story / like developmental phase that they were going through, if you know what I mean. When you don't care about a person and they're going through this really key phase in their life, it doesn't hit the same. So yeah, this one was just kind of for me. It wasn't necessarily the worst book. Like, there wasn't anything like particularly bad about it. It just didn't hit for me and it just wasn't the book for me. Completely changing things up. We got, I think this is the 3rd 5-star read of the year. I haven't had that many, but we read Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. This is the 3rd and final book in the Greenbone saga. Oh my gosh, guys. If you have seen my vlog reading this, I sincerely apologize because I don't think I have ever cried so much reading a book. I got secondhand embarrassment big time editing that vlog and I cut so much out. I was a mess. I was bawling my eyes out. I don't know if I was just extra emotional on that particular day, but I could not hold myself together. Like, it was not okay. If you don't know what the Greenbone saga is, first book is Jade City. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about Jade Legacy because it's the 3rd book, but we are set in the city of Janloon. It's an urban fantasy, so we're actually in like the contemporary world, but we do have magical elements in it. So we are following the Carl family. They are a very high up, powerful clan leader in Janloon, the city we're in. And in this world, there is this element called Jade that has the ability to increase your physical, mental strength, just basically make you a more powerful person. The politics in this is insane. And this book actually took place over like 11 years, which is crazy. I have never read a book that has taken place over that long a time period. And I thought I wouldn't be able to connect to our characters as much as a result of that because everything was kind of like more fast paced. But oh my gosh, I was wrong. I have never connected to characters more than this. Like, I genuinely cannot think of the last time. Maybe in like Six of Crows, which, by the way, if you enjoy Six of Crows, I feel like you will love this. The Cull family just has this incredible sense of, like, I want to say found family because there's definitely people that like marry into the family and aren't necessarily Cull by blood that create this sense of found family. There's also just like family friends, and the clan's layout and like their politics in general does create a really strong sense of found family. So we're going to go with that term, okay? Even though some of them are literally family. But I have never felt so conflicted towards characters before. There were times where I truly hated some of these characters, and by the end, like, I love them. Nothing you could say could change my mind. Yes, they have done terrible things in their lifetime, but nothing you could say will make me love them less. And I know that they're so flawed. They're just very like morally grey, complicated characters. Not in your classic like fantasy male protagonist that is like brooding and like, you know, morally grey in that terms. No, like morally grey is in their morals are definitely questionable, but you also kind of understand why they're doing it. I have nothing but good things to say on this book. Fonda Lee writes a hell of a fantasy book. This entire series is going up into my god tier series, I think. So much happened in 3 books and yet it felt perfectly paced. There are so many times when I've read a trilogy and I'm like, this could be 2 books or this is meant to be 5 books. Surprisingly, trilogies can be a really hard thing to master, I feel like. Sometimes they feel really dragged out. This did not, and it also didn't feel rushed. Everything that was meant to happen happened. I love when. It's the characters that stuck with me for this. The world was incredible as well, and I definitely want to read more urban fantasy. And I said during my vlog a few times as well, because I don't read a lot of urban fantasy, I don't know the typical progression of a plot. You know when you read a lot of romancy or you read a lot of romance and you start to understand the typical traditional kind of plot layout? I don't know if it was just Fonda Lee's writing or if it's urban fantasy in general, but I had no idea where this book was going, where the plot was going, the entire trilogy, to be honest, and I loved that. Guys, it is so warm today. It has been so warm and humid the past few weeks, so I'm taking a lot of water breaks, I'm sorry. The next book we read in the month of February was A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. This has been on my mental TBR for a long time, and for some reason it was just one of those books that like I could never find when I went to buy it. You know, one of those books that kind of just hides from you when you're going book shopping? Yeah, it was one of those. And the few times I did see it, I didn't pick it up for some reason because it wasn't that high on my priority. Now I regret that. But long story short, we all know that Jamie, bestie Jamie, loves A Song to Drown Rivers so much. And for my birthday, she sent over a Book of the Month edition. We don't get Book of the Month in Australia, so this is a really special thing. But it also meant that I finally had an excuse to read it. I could finally pick up a physical version. This was one of the most unique fantasies I've ever read. So first of all, this is a fantasy standalone. This is based off Chinese mythology, I believe, or a Chinese myth in general, like a story, a legend. We are following Ziqi, who is a great beauty of her time. She has these incredibly beautiful features, but she's never really thought of doing anything with her life apart from like marrying well so that her family is well supported for the rest of her time. One day she gets approached by Fanli, who is very high up in the kind of royal political scene in this world, and he is asking for her to help in this mission to basically use her beauty as a weapon to help overcome the rivalry kingdom that is right next to them. So Ziqi goes undercover and kind of has to try and seduce the neighboring kingdom's king. I was trying to think of another word there. No, Kingdom's King. So first of all, the plot is really fun. It's really fast paced. It's really great to follow. It's actually set over quite a long period of time, but it is a very short book. I gave this a 4.25 in the end. So I did really, really enjoy it. The writing was some of the most beautiful writing I have read in a long time. Anne Liang has such a poetic, lyrical, flowery way of writing, but also a way that evokes so much emotion in you that also is really, really addictive. Like once I got into this book, I could not put it down. It was such an easy read. So if you need a fantasy standalone, like you don't want to commit to a series, highly recommend A Song to Drown Rivers. I really liked our main protagonist as well. I loved how she used her beauty as like a weapon, and she knew how powerful that was. Like she knew how much she could almost brainwash someone because of how beautiful she was, and I loved that. It was so much fun to read about. I also love an undercover situation. Like it gets you so tense and so intrigued in what's happening. The only thing that I wanted more of was the chemistry between our characters, not even necessarily romantic chemistry. Like I could feel that that was there. I just wanted more time with them. And like they did spend a lot of time together. We just didn't see it really because it was very fast paced. I think if I had spent more time with our characters, I would have loved them so much more together. I just wanted to see them interact more. I just wanted to feel that chemistry. I wanted to get butterflies from it, if you know what I mean. That is probably the only thing I wanted more of in this book. The ending though, the ending is what we need to talk about. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but I was left staring at the wall for a good 20 minutes. Like it took me a few days to process this ending. ending. Now that I think about it, I think it was so poetic, incredibly, I'm trying to use words that isn't going to like spoil anything, because honestly it could be spoiled. Dramatic, poetic irony. Is that too many? That is like what I'm thinking of when I think of this ending. I loved it, and it really made me up my rating, honestly. It went from a fun, whimsy fantasy to one that sticks with you and you don't stop thinking about for days after finishing it. And the ability to do that in I don't think this was even 300 pages. No, it was just under 300 pages. In a 300-page fantasy, you can have the ability to do that is quite incredible. I also wanted a tiny bit more politics. I'm not gonna lie. That's probably one other area, but I've just been in a politics mood, you know? I've been craving it in my fantasy books. After A Song to Drown Rivers, guys, I read Jade Legacy, A Song to Drown Rivers, and then The Bright Years back to back. So you could say I had an emotionally draining week of reading, because I did shed some tears in A Song to Drown Rivers, and then I read The Bright Years, and you could definitely say that I shed some tears in The Bright Years. So this is a contemporary fiction. The reason I picked this up is purely because I saw it at the library and it was in their like most read category. And I was like, you know what? It's really short. Again, it was like less than 300 pages. And I was like, I'm craving a contemporary fiction. And that doesn't happen all the time for me. So we're going to lean into that. And we're going to go read the contemporary fiction. I read this in like a night. I read 40 pages the night before. And then I sat down the next night and read the entire thing because I could not put it down. I feel like I keep saying that, but mainly our characters. That is what drew me into this book. They were so well developed. What was interesting, similar to A Song to Drown Rivers, and I think I said this on the podcast, but it almost feels like A Song to Drown Rivers could be a contemporary fiction with fantastical elements, because I kind of got a very similar vibe to The Bright Years, probably just because I read them back to back. But The Bright Years, we are following a couple essentially and their life dealing with addictions, just difficult things that life will throw at you, and how you navigate them and how it affects you and your family and everyone surrounding you basically in the long run. It was honestly quite a tragic story. So just going knowing that, but also a beautiful story. We start off by following a young couple when they meet, sparks instantly. They have such great chemistry and they spark up a very, very long, honestly successful relationship. I feel like whilst we're following their relationship, we're also consecutively following their adult journey, graduating into all these different sections of adulthood almost. And that was really beautiful to see. I feel like when you're in your young 20s as well, it's quite nice to read about people who don't know what they're doing with their lives, because like we can all relate to that. I don't want to talk too much about what the actual plot was about because I don't want to spoil it. I do think going blind, I went in completely blind and I loved it. Please be aware that there are some very sensitive topics talked about. You know, just make sure you look up trigger warnings. You do you. You make sure you don't put yourself in an uncomfortable situation reading about something you don't want to be reading about or that might be triggering for you. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. I feel like with a lot of contemporary fictions though, there usually is quite a few sensitive, hard topics to read about, but I think they're very important topics to read about. Like the thing that stuck with me the most about this book was how important everything that explored is. Like not just these very central themes, but the underlying ones that may like slip under the carpet and other people might not realize. And also exploring different personality types and how different personalities deal with things differently. I'm being so vague, guys, but I truly just trust me. Just go into this one. I gave this one a 4.5. I loved this book. I thought it was beautiful. I'm actually very proud of myself. I went outside my comfort zone so much this month. The next book I read was Strange Pictures. This is a translated work. It's a Japanese fiction. I actually bought this book for my partner. He actually picked this out for me to read. We did a video of him choosing my reads for a week if you want to watch it. And he loves Japanese fiction. I have only read 1 or 2 books that fall into that category and I've enjoyed them, but I haven't been obsessed with them. I was hoping that I would like this one a little bit more because it is like a thriller / mystery book and I was excited about that. But this is kind of set out in a way that you're putting together the crime with the protagonist. It is centered around a crime, a few mysteries, but basically it is split into 4 parts. Each part follows a different character. In your brain, you start to put together how these chapters relate, essentially. So also a fun element is within the book, let me show you, it's very immersive. Like we have pictures throughout the book and drawings that are maybe used for evidence, anything like that. And we are essentially solving one big mystery, one big crime from different perspectives and across a long period of time. This was pitched to me as you could probably solve it. I don't know if you could. Like there is information that you don't get until the very end of this book that I think is left out for a reason. Like I don't think you could have predicted that. Maybe you could have. I don't know. I'd be very impressed. I gave it a 3.25 stars. So I enjoyed it. I didn't have a bad time. It's very, very little. It was an interesting read. I think for me, this is more a familiarity thing. I'm not familiar with this kind of writing. I'm not familiar with this kind of layout of a book. I'm so used to getting to know some characters and sticking with them for the entirety of the book. This wasn't that. And it kind of felt like I was just reading a story on paper rather than really immersing myself within the story. Objectively, I can look at this plot and be like, wow, that was really well put together. It was really well thought out. These little tiny plot details that are talked about here get mentioned here, and actually they're really crucial to the plot as a whole. So there was so much that I could really, really appreciate about this. It was more that I just wasn't addicted to it in any means. I wasn't immersed in the story, and I don't know if I'm meant to be. I don't know if that's even the aim for this book. I'm glad I read it. I'm very glad I got outside my comfort zone, but it's kind of just one of those books where I'm a little bit confused on. My thoughts are still like, they're still forming to this day. This next one is actually one of my top reads of the month, and that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. I had heard nobody talk about this book. I've never seen anyone read it, and I was so excited to jump into it. We are set in the 1920s in New York, so the roaring 20s. We are following our protagonist, Evie. She has moved, I think, from Ohio to live with her uncle in New York because she's kind of just creating a bit of disruption to her family life in Ohio. So she gets shipped off to her uncle, who owns a museum that is basically just containing folklore and mysteries and weird historical artifacts that might relate to witchcraft, spiritual things, everything like that. Evie really immerses herself in this environment, and then one day this string of killings start to happen, and she starts to investigate it because she starts to have these little clues. There are elements of magic in this as well, which I think are really, really fun. This was really interesting because it was so haunting and eerie that in my vlog, I kept talking about it that way, but it truly was so creepy. I also listened to a bit of this on audiobook, and I highly recommend the audiobook. It is one of the best audiobooks I have listened to. The narrator was absolutely incredible. She did such a great job. There was also so many audible elements to this book. Like, there are many songs that are sung, poems, kind of music themed things, little sounds that are very crucial to the plot. So actually having that like audible version of it was really, really nice. Also really terrifying. Like, those songs when somebody sings them, absolutely terrifying. This deals a lot with the idea of the supernatural. Spiritualism was obviously a really big movement from I think it was 1860s onwards. And in the roaring 20s, it definitely picked up. When I say spiritualism, I mean tapping into the spiritual realm, Ouija boards, everything like that. That was a really big thing. And that creeps me out. It creeps me out, and I don't understand why. But as soon as we're talking about the supernatural and the spiritual realm, that freaks me out. I don't know if that's real or not. Who knows? I could have a ghost in my room following me all night. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know. It's the idea of the unknown that terrifies me so much. So that definitely tapped into my fear of the unknown, and I loved it. I'm very glad I read this when I was older, because I think if I read this when I was young, I've had these fears since I was very young, I think I would actually just no. I don't think I'd recover. I don't think I'd sleep at night. It's not even that scary, guys. It's genuinely not that scary. It's just spooky and haunting. I loved Evie as a main protagonist. I thought she was really outspoken, witty, smart, and sassy for a 1920s female. She was really defying the general society rules that kind of took place in the 1920s, and I loved that about her. Really fun protagonist to follow, and a fun protagonist to be in the minds of. We do have switching POVs, and this is the first in a series, by the way. I didn't mention that, but I definitely want to continue the series after reading this one, because I'm really interested to see where our story goes from here. I'm interested to see how our other characters play into this a little bit more, because whilst we did have different POVs, I feel like Evie was definitely where our main action was happening. And I'd like to see how our different characters are going to play into the future happenings, events of this world. I'd be interested. I also really liked some of our other characters, and I want to be in the minds of them as well. Evie, she's fun. She's really great, but I also want to get some other perspectives, because I liked the little ones that we got. The best way actually I can describe this, the roaring 20s, but have a big splash, a heavy dose of Haunting of House Hill. It's giving that same vibe. You know what I mean? Okay. The next book we read, this one is really, really interesting. This is Neverthorn by Shannon Mayer. Now, I am going to put this book down because my arm, I'm guys, it's so warm. This has been on my TBR, guys, for a little bit too long. No, it's been on my TBR for a ridiculously long time, and I have put it on monthly TBRs quite a few times, I think. It's been on my monthly TBR numerous times. So this was the one book on my TBR this month that I was I absolutely need to get to, because it's not okay if I don't read this book. All I knew going into this book is I felt like I was ready for it to be a bit of a cringy but fun time. The back says, "Welcome to Neverthorn Academy, where a bunch of magical school misfits are about to save the world, or more likely die trying." Now, I did talk about in my vlog, that is not what this book is, because our characters were in their late 20s, early 30s. Magical school misfits sounds like you're following teenagers, which there were teenagers in this cast as well of characters, but we weren't following them. Anyway, we are basically following our protagonist, Harlow. She dropped out from Neverthorn Academy when she was in her teenage years, and since then she's kind of just been on her own working as a thief. In this world, they use runes to cast magic, so you can like draw a rune and it will cast a magical spell. And she's created all these shorthand techniques. So she's a very powerful, I think they call them witches. They never explicitly said, I don't think, but yeah, witch, I guess. Honestly, guys, do you know what this felt like? It felt like a PG-13 version of Zodiac Academy. I'm so sorry. If you like Zodiac Academy, you might have a fun time. She gets pretty much cornered one day into this situation where she has to return to Neverthorn Academy to help team up with a bunch of other people who are returning to try and defeat this powerful dark wizard called Nocta. Very simple plot. We're going to start with the pros. The pros? Great academy setting. I love an academy setting, guys. I liked following Harlow to different classes, seeing her in different situations, learning different spells, potions, everything like that. The academy setting definitely was there, and it definitely hit the vibe check, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes you just add an academy and nothing actually happens. Like no academic studies take place or anything like that. But with Harlow, we were in dormitories and we were sneaking out into the halls. That's pretty much where my pros end. I feel bad, but it was just too cringy for me, guys. Which was my biggest thing with Zodiac Academy as well. There were just a lot of cringy elements in this book that made it really hard for me to separate that and enjoy it. I know that sometimes with cringy things, you can just be like, oh, whatever, it's kind of cute. I'm here for the vibe. We're just going to keep going. And I was here for the vibe. That's very much what kept me in this book. And I actually liked the ending. Like the ending was like, oh, I'm kind of curious to see where this series goes. I don't think I'll be continuing it, but you know. The other thing that really bugged me was it felt like it was just trope dumping, like trope on trope on trope, and they were just there for no particular reason. Like it wasn't like they were integrated into the storyline. They were just kind of like, let's throw this one in. I just don't think it was the book for me. There were just too many elements that felt a little bit, I don't know, what Patty? I hate to say, which is a vibe. Again, it's a vibe. And honestly, I read this so quickly because of that. Like I sped through this book and I didn't hate my time in it. It was really easy. It was fun. After that, we went on to an incredibly well executed fantasy book, and that is The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. I have been meaning to get to this series for the longest time. This is the start to a new series. Well, kind of. It's set in the same world as the Darker Shade of Magic, and we are following the same characters plus a few from the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. So I wouldn't pick this book up unless you've read a Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. As I said, this is the first in the series, but only the first book is out at the moment. I think V. Schwab is currently writing the next in this series, which is very exciting. But we are set 7 years after the Shades of Magic trilogy finished, following our same protagonists, Kel and Lila, who I absolutely love. They're some of my favorite protagonists to follow. I love Lila as a character. Can I just say, like, she is so brutal. I think that's the best word. She is brutal and she loves it. So incredibly skilled in combat, everything like that. She just, she knows what she's doing. I love Lila. We are also following Rye, and I really, really liked his storyline in this book. I'm not going to talk too much about the plot because I don't want to spoil anything from the original trilogy, but he was really great in this book. I really liked seeing where his storyline went. It made me like him more as a character, to be honest. I really appreciated him in this book. And then we have a few new characters. Can I just say Tess, one of my new favorite characters. She is so fun. I am so excited to see where this goes. This was a 4.5. Honestly, not a lot I could fault about this. I was addicted to it the entire time. It literally still felt like a homecoming. Like I was so excited to be back in this wonderfully urban fantastical world. The world we are set in is basically London, but a few different realities. So there are different realities of London and they go by color grading. So there's like the gray London, the white London, the red London. And Kel, our main protagonist, is a magician and is one of the only people who can travel between the different realities. He kind of acts like a messenger and keeps the peace between different kingdoms in each reality, essentially. Guys, after all that, I really needed a break, okay? So we went on to read The Fake Out, which is an ice hockey romance. It is the second book in the Vancouver Storm, I think it's called, series, and genuinely forgot I started this series. I read the first book in this a long time ago, like I'm talking 2-3 years ago. And the only reason I remembered I was in the middle of it, because it's like an interconnected standalone series. And when I read the first one, I don't think the second one was out. They're just on Kindle Unlimited, but I actually think I might continue it because I have been craving, like I didn't realize how much I was craving a romance until I started reading that book. And I was like, oh, I desperately needed to read about a rich hockey player spoiling a girl he's obsessed with who pretends to hate him. Like, I didn't realize how much I needed that in my life. I have to say it, I am a fan of a hockey romance. I do love a sports romance, especially when it's like famous sports romance, you know, like they're a professional player. Was this the best romance I've ever read? Probably not, but honestly kind of gave into their chemistry. So in the first one, we are following Pippa, and I genuinely cannot remember his name. It was a long time ago, but this other guy, hockey player. And in this one, we are following Pippa's sister Hazel and Rory. Rory's also friends with the other guy from the first book. You could probably read these as standalones, to be honest, though. They're just like overlapping characters. Hazel is the physiotherapist for the hockey team, and unfortunately her ex-boyfriend gets signed to that hockey team. He's just got a big ego, and he thinks that Hazel still wants him back, which she does not, because he like cheated on her and everything. He's no good for her. She doesn't like him. So to convince him that she has moved on, she puts it forward to Rory that she wants to fake this relationship in front of him so that he leaves her alone, essentially. Rory is pretty obvious about the fact that he's head over heels for Hazel, and I do always love that. Like, I love when the guy falls first for the girl, and I think it was done pretty fun in this one, to be honest. I'll probably read more in this series. I actually want to go on to the third one really soon, and I might, just because I think I'm back in my hockey romance era. It probably will only last like 2-3 books, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I need a good romance book, and I've been really wanting that recently. I think I'm just mourning the Windy City series being over, because that's the best like sports romance series I've ever read. Anyway, not too much to say on this one. It was ridiculously spicy. Like, there was so many spicy scenes in this, a little bit too much for my liking. If you don't like spice, don't go for this one. It's definitely not a closed door romance. So for that reason, I gave it a 3.5. Like, it's fun. You're there for a good time, not a long time. The last book I read in the month of February has also been on my TBR a few times, I think, and that is The Sirens by Amelia Hart. Now, I originally thought this was a contemporary fiction. I think it's technically classified as like a fantasy, maybe magical realism. I don't really know. It's a bit of a genre bending kind of book. This was weird to me. I don't know if I enjoyed it. I don't know if I didn't enjoy it. There were moments I did, moments I didn't. Overall, the plot felt very slow for me. I felt like it dragged on a lot, but it's not a very long book, so it's kind of a little bit contradictory in my mind. We're basically following Lucy, who is in college and running away from something that has happened. She needs her older sister Jess to, like, just because she thinks that she's going to be the only one that can understand her, that can help her through this situation. Her and Jess used to be really close, but they haven't really talked in years. So she goes to her clifftop house in the south coast of New South Wales, only to find that Jess is completely gone. She's left her phone, her wallet behind, everything. And now Lucy is confused. Within this town that Jess is living as well, there are a lot of stories and myths surrounding it. There are lots of mysteries as well, like lots of men have gone missing in this town, and there's been no explanation as of why. And Lucy is also a little bit of a true crime fanatic, so she listens to a lot of podcasts, and so she starts to do a deep dive into these mysteries, also whilst trying to just find out where Jess is. So I liked the actual plot line, and I think because I wasn't sure of the genre, it felt kind of odd, the things that were happening. Like, they were very fantastical, but in a very normal setting. And sometimes that works, but I don't know, maybe it was just the mood I was in, to be honest. I don't know if I was in the right mood to be reading this book, which is why I don't always read my TBR books, because it is going to like severely affect my rating of the book and my experience reading it if I'm not in the mood for it. And this was definitely a push. Like, I had to push myself to get through it. The writing was good. It was quite lyrical. I wasn't obsessed with it. Like, it definitely didn't keep me engaged the entire time. I actually was reading this and then stopped reading it to read the fake out, because I was like, I think my brain needs a break. We do have this whole kind of sirens, obviously. We have like this whole sirens theme going on in the background of that book, and I do love a sirens theme. Like, so I liked that idea of it. I liked the kind of creative literacy that was taken to this. I don't know how to explain it. It felt like a painting. Maybe that's a good way to describe it. This book felt like a painting. Like, there are so many odd things about it, and there's little details in it that kind of just don't make sense in my mind. But also you can appreciate the beauty of it. I gave this one a 3.25 in the end. I do think it's actually quite a good book, and I think some people would really enjoy it. I just wasn't in the right headspace to read this. I wasn't addicted to it. It felt like I had to really push myself to read it, and I don't want to feel like that when I'm reading a book, to be honest. I want to be enjoying my time reading it. Bit of a miss for me, but we did get it off the TBR, so that's a big step for me. But those are the 10 books we read in the month of February. So a very big month, a very interesting month, full of pros and cons, but yeah. Thank you if you've made it to the end of this video. I feel like I have just talked so much. So if you've made it to the end, thank you so much for being here. It truly means the world to me. Let me know what your top read of February was if you're still watching. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.